Ashraf, who is one of the concern on this conference. But my concern is, how can people do, as you will see, murder innocent people like they do in Ashraf, having tanks driving over human being? How could that happen again and again? We ask each other sometimes, where is the humanity among people? The situation in Ashraf is urgent. They are under a medical blockade since the beginning of 2009, with restrictions on medicine. The situation is alarming, as Iraqi forces are still battle-ready in the camp, stationed with their armored vehicles. Amnesty International has warned Iraq of using violence against members of the residents of camp areas.
You have gathered today at a time when the bodies of 35 Ashraf martyrs of the April 8 massacre have not yet been buried. The Iraqi forces have occupied Ashraf cemetery and are not allowing their burial. I want to refer to one of the martyrs, a passionate, courageous, open-minded, and selfless woman, Saba Haft Baradaran, who had been wounded but could have easily been saved. In her last moments, Saba, who could hardly breathe, said, "We are standing to the end." And I ask, who in the world is going to respond to Saba's cry? I also want to tell you, distinguished Swedish parliamentarians and personalities, about Hanif Kafai. He was educated in Stockholm and a Swedish citizen. He was a brave young man, passionate for Iran's freedom. He died by a bullet. So I ask, for which crime was he murdered? As such, I ask on behalf of the Iranian resistance, first, the European Union, especially the Swedish government and parliament, to undertake an international initiative to guarantee the protection of Camp Ashraf by the United Nations. Second, we demand an impartial, independent, full and transparent investigation into the April 8 massacre and insist on the appointment of a Security Council representative to conduct such an investigation. And third, we call on the Swedish government and all EU member states to recognize the Iranian people's resistance that seeks to change the religious dictatorship ruling Iran.
And I'm addressing now the people in Camp Ashraf. Still, I cannot fully grasp what you, dear inhabitants of Camp Ashraf, are living through every day, suffering. But be sure that I, and many with me, are thinking of you and praying. We all know the evil force behind the atrocities in Camp Ashraf is the clerical regime in Iran.
Iraqi government seized the opportunity when everybody was watching Libya and attacked the camp. As a professional soldier, I feel ashamed for such deeds committed in military uniform. It is certainly in bright contrast to any military ethics. The duty of a soldier is to protect civilians, not to slaughter them. Nothing is more cowardice than to kill defenseless people. I am convinced all my colleagues in the Nordic countries share this opinion.
Our foreign minister, on behalf of the Icelandic government and people, issued a statement on April 11 on the situation in Camp Ashraf, voicing deep concern over reports of violence against civilians. The Icelandic government further raised concerns over reports that the Iraqi authorities had prevented humanitarian aid from getting to civilians wounded in the fighting. The government appealed to the Iraqi authorities to fully obey international humanitarian law and to ensure that humanitarian assistance is received by those who need it. And I'm not sure whether the foreign minister of Iceland had seen this video. I'm sure if he had seen it, he would have used even stronger language. What we saw was a disgrace, a barbaric attack on innocent people, and a massacre. Let me add that, in my view, the United States have a particular responsibility with respect to Camp Ashraf, given the history of their involvement in Iraq since 2003. The Obama administration must meet its moral obligations with respect to Camp Ashraf. We should also ask that the United Nations Commissioner for Human Rights take action with respect to Camp Ashraf and do her utmost to prevent another bloodshed from occurring. I'm glad to see how your organization envisages the role of women in a future Iran. I believe that in this spirit, you and the movement for democratic change in Iran will prevail.
My party, the Social Democratic Party of Sweden, has also been taking a part of this and have condemned the Iraqi massacre on Camp Ashraf. I think it's important to say that we actually have taken this stand. And we saw this horrible movie. Actually, it deeply touched my heart because, and I saw that many of you also were very touched when we saw this movie. We have a situation in Camp Ashraf that is, we can't tolerate that anymore. The important issue is to say that we stand up for human rights. We stand up for a democratic development in Iran. We stand up for the inhabitants of Camp Ashraf that is being massacred by the Iraqi army. And that is why I also call on the Swedish government today to actually take a stand. To take a stand here.
För snart en månad sedan, den 8 april, blev Camp Ashraf attackerad. Det kom ut i världspressen, det kom även till Sverige och jag blev väldigt ledsen den kvällen. Det var en fruktansvärd händelse som hela världen borde reagerat emot ordentligt. Den humanitära situationen är fortfarande, vad jag förstår, olidlig och måste förbättras.
I'm a lawyer. I'm supposed to be very non-emotional. But when I saw this video today, I couldn't just be non-emotional. I've been myself in Ashraf in 2004. I recognize this place. I recognize these people. I'm not sure how many of my clients have been wounded. Already, at least 3 of my clients have been killed. 2 of them in 2009, and now Hanif, a Swedish citizen, was killed. I wrote immediately to the Swedish Foreign Office demanding that they do something. Who are these people that we saw on this video? Did any of you see any weapon in the hand of any of these people? No. I've been there. In 2004, there were no weapons. People's Mujahideen has been in Ashraf since 1986. It's a long time. They are all refugees in one way or another from Iran. They are all, in addition, after the agreement with the United States military forces in Iraq, protected persons according to the 4th Geneva Convention. This convention is crystal clear. You may not attack these people. You may not imprison these people. You may not deprive them of medical treatment. You may not deprive them of food, clothing, shelter. And you may not move them. There is no excuse, no legal explanation or excuse for the actions of the Iraqi military against protected persons, unarmed civilians in Camp Ashraf. I agree completely with many speakers here who have mentioned the International Criminal Court, which has been set up under the auspices of the United Nations. And if you read the statutes of this convention, it's quite clear that there are people, starting at the top in Iraq, who are guilty of crimes against humanity and possibly also of war crimes because they are responsible for this attack on unarmed civilians protected by the 4th Geneva Convention. And they should be tried for that. The crime is a crime. And this protection of unarmed civilians against a government attacking a civilian population should be extended to the residents of Camp Ashraf. This is reasonable. We have 35 people dead and 350 additional casualties. This is enough. The United States of America has troops still in Iraq today, and I say that the United States of America should send those troops to Ashraf and throw out the Iraqis out of Ashraf.